The night before the wedding, Seth's ex-girlfriend asked him if he could hug her again. Everyone looked at me awkwardly, but Seth held her in his arms, without hesitation. I had been following him for 3 years, so he was fearless, and thought I had to be with him. So when I left, he said nonchalantly, "The wedding is tomorrow, and she still has to come back obediently." He seemed to have forgotten. I was never a dog who allowed him to bully me. And he was not the only heir of the Liu family. The day before the wedding, Seth's friends came to celebrate his last single night. Under the instigation of a group of friends, a young girl with only a few pieces of cloth on her body held a piece of orange in her mouth and rushed to him. Amid cheers, Seth held the piece of orange in his mouth and passed it to another woman. In front of me, his fiancée, without hesitation. I was hiding in the corner of this room, watching him, as the heir of the Liu group, get a lot of support in this circle. Although our family is also a new business, in his eyes, it is just a nouveau riche that has only developed in recent years, so he naturally looks down on me. Considering that our family has a lot of liquidity and can fill the gap in his company, his mother arranged for me to come with him as a reward. It makes me eligible to exercise the so-called rights of the legal wife after my fiancé lingers in the flowers and bring him back intact. So I am now nestling on the sofa in the corner with an expressionless face, and I didn't notice the arrival of an uninvited guest at all. "When did you become like this? You drink so much, why doesn't your wife care about you?" Seth's ex-girlfriend Chloe was in tears, pushing away those cool beauties, causing a shrill scream. Seth smiled arrogantly, looking at the angry Chloe, and cursed, "My wife doesn't mind, what status do you have to mind?" She froze there, turned her head and looked at me who seemed to have nothing to do with it, and then raised a glass of wine with a smile that was uglier than crying. "Okay, just think of me as a slut, and I still feel sorry for you. Don't forget, I took care of your stomach. Even if you hate me now, please don't drink like this to hurt yourself." Seth looked disdainful, but clenched his fists when he heard these words. I couldn't help but sigh that the lethality of first love is really great. Chloe obviously felt his care and gradually softened her voice. "Seth, I'm here to wish you a happy wedding today, and I won't go to tomorrow's wedding. Only today, for the last time, can you hug me again?" Her eyes were red, and her eyes swept over me from time to time. Her words were thorny, but her tone was extremely humble, making it hard for people to blame her. For a moment, the scene became extremely quiet, with only the sound of rocks blasting in the gold miner game on my phone. I was actually not without any waves in my heart, but everyone knew the position of Chloe in Seth's heart. The two of them were like an old idol drama, playing several games of her escaping and him chasing. But Chloe was not as firm as Seth imagined. After hearing that his company was facing a financial crisis, she actually threw herself into the arms of someone else in the bar the night after Seth's mother found her, and then married someone else. Chloe turned into the white moonlight in the sky and never met him again. If I, the marriage partner, hadn't appeared again and announced the wedding of the two families, she would probably not have come to see Seth until now. I know these little thoughts of hers, everyone knows them, and Seth himself actually knows them better. Unfortunately, knowing in the heart does not mean being clear-headed. He would rather blame everything on Liu's mother than accept that the white moonlight gave up on himself. In a dead silence, Seth held Chloe in his arms. His hands were bulging with veins, and his back was bent, as if he was carefully guarding something that he could not get in this life. Then Chloe collapsed in his arms. "Don't get married, you know I'm not doing well now. So, please don't leave me." I was provoked to the face, and finally raised my head without escape. When our eyes met, Seth's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. I don't know what Seth is expecting me to say. Is he expecting me to keep asking him to break up with his ex-girlfriend as I have done in the past 3 years? Or is he expecting me to give him some freedom on the last night before marriage and not spoil his fun again? In the game of marriage, everyone is just a business person, so no one should make things too difficult for each other. So I only thought about it for a second and decisively decided to do the latter. When I lowered my head and prepared to continue playing mobile games, I heard Seth gritting his teeth. It sounded like anger, but also like a request. Yulia, as long as you beg me, I will listen to you. Beg him? Just like in the past few years, begging him to give my fiancé some dignity. The flames of depression in my heart were burning. Seth seemed to have forgotten something. In a relationship, in addition to humble requests and equal negotiations, there are other ways of communication. For example, like what I am doing now, taking intimate photos of the two of us on the phone, and then pressing the send button with my finger. This is called a threat. Seth did not get angry but laughed, looking at me as if he was looking at an unrelated stranger. Do you think I care about this? As long as you give a little more profit on the project invested by your family, not to mention my parents, your parents will advise you not to care too much. I also laughed, and then said to him, You are right, you have stepped on my face in the past few years. When have you ever cared? But, you don't care, doesn't mean that Miss Zhang doesn't care. I can send it to Dylan in the construction company. I think he will be very interested to know what his wife is doing now. One sentence, and Chloe's face turned pale. That year, Chloe fell into Dylan's arms in a nightclub. At that time, Dylan had just lost his beloved wife, and Chloe climbed up this big tree with a face that looked 50% like his ex-wife. I thought she would become famous because of her son, but within half a year, the news that Dylan was collecting beauties broke out. Every woman is more like his ex-wife than Chloe, and every woman's means are more ruthless than Chloe. Now that Chloe has no children, if the news of her being involved with her ex-boyfriend is exposed, let alone becoming famous again because of her son, even the position of Mrs. Xiao will be unstable. Her lips trembled, and she hurriedly tried to push Seth away, but he trapped her in his arms more tightly. Yulia, it's my business that I can't let her go. Why do you embarrass her like this? Don't forget, you are not Mrs. Liu yet, don't put on your stinky airs. Apologize to her, don't make me say it again. Seth's way of threatening me is always the same, he just thinks I must have him. I smiled, and then pointed at the married man in his arms. Then I'll give her this seat, okay? Oh, no, the Liu family doesn't allow a mistress to sit in this seat. Chloe obviously knew this, her face was pale, and she almost fainted from crying. It was obviously Seth and I who got together first. I'm not a mistress. No one reacted. Seth approached me, and then slapped my face to the side. Seth looked at me with a gloomy and cold look, just like the day when our parents announced that we wanted to get married. That day, he looked at me like he was looking at an enemy, and warned me, You are just a marriage partner, Chloe is my lover, so don't do anything beyond your status. Don't forget that your family still depends on ours to survive. 3 years ago, because of this sentence, I stood cautiously outside the cordon he gave me. Except when I needed to maintain the face of the two families, I stood up as my fiancé to drive away the girls he was tired of playing with, and never interfered with his life of luxury. I followed him for 3 years, swallowing my anger, becoming a laughingstock, and being regarded as a bootlicker by all his friends. But Seth. At that time, our family was weak and could only survive by relying on your family's business. If I could marry you, my parents would be more than happy. But in the past 3 years, the industry cycle has changed, our family's business has been rising, and the cooperation with the Liu family has gradually become mutually beneficial. Although the Liu family still has the upper hand, it is no longer the era when your harsh words can make me tremble. I touched my left face, and the burning pain slowly climbed up my cheek. Although Seth was a bad guy, I really didn't expect him to hit me for Chloe. I raised the corners of my lips, tapped a few times on the chat interface, turned around and walked out of the box. I could hear Seth's friend carefully comforting behind me, Brother Liu, sister-in-law is really gone. Seth's voice was so calm that it was annoying. Tomorrow is the wedding, she still has to come back obediently. This position will be hers sooner or later, what else is she dissatisfied with? I walked to the street, and the cold wind of early autumn was already cool in my face. I wrapped my coat tightly and saw the message from my mother on my phone. After knowing Seth's absurdity tonight, she said a lot of words to comfort me. Even if I told her, Mom, he hit me, it hurts. She was silent for a while, and the words went around for several times, but the main idea was still to let me be sensible and maintain a good relationship between the two families. After all, we still have to have dealings with the Liu family. Men, most of them are like that, and all women have to go through this. In her heart, the biggest use of me as a daughter is to consolidate the resources and status of the family, so it doesn't matter if I get a little angry, she has been through this too. I am a long-planned deal for her, just like she was once a commodity waiting to be sold. There may be some true feelings, but it is not as important as her face now. I had expected it, but I was still disappointed in her. I threw my phone into my bag and looked up at the corner of the street. The man in the indigo windbreaker seemed to have been waiting for a while. He gently placed the iced drink on my face, rubbed it back and forth for a few times, and then said softly, "Seth is like this. He has been spoiled since he was a child and has no law to follow. Everything will be held in front of him, so he never cherishes it. But if you follow him, you will always have a stable life with no worries about food and clothing, unlike me. I will never be the first choice for the heir of the Liu family's industry, and being with me will definitely not be the easiest way. Have you thought it through? Do you really want to choose me?" Wayne's voice is low and hoarse, and his bright eyes are gentle and affectionate. Even if this is completely in his favor, he still kindly analyzes everything to me again. He is Seth's half-brother. When her mother died of dystocia when giving birth to him, his father quickly married Seth's mother on the grounds that the child needs a mother to take care of him. Liu's mother was lukewarm about him at first, but one day she saw a photo of Wayne's biological mother hidden in the safe by Liu's father. The same high-nose bridge, the same bright eyes. If the photos of the two are put together, even she herself may make a mistake. This world is simply a huge substitute literature. From then on, Wayne became a thorn in Liu's mother's flesh. Especially when Wayne grew up and gradually showed his business talent, Seth made wrong decisions frequently under the title of heir. The strong contrast, the pressure from shareholders, and the complaints from the board of directors made this thorn pierce deeper and deeper. Liu's mother was unwilling to vent her anger on her beloved son, so she had to make Wayne suffer. When Liu's mother suppressed him the most, he was sidelined in the company and ran to the bar to drink alone. I happened to meet me who was caught adulterer according to the procedure and was kicked out of the box. One of us was frustrated and the other was embarrassed. Now think about it, we are a perfect match. I hooked his arm and felt his body stiffen instantly, and then pointed at the metal billboard on the street. Our two reflections were connected together, and they were a perfect match. Wayne, I don't want to be a commodity sacrificed for business, and you don't want to be suppressed by your brain-dead brother for the rest of your life, right? Seth is too arrogant. He still thinks I'm deeply in love with him. You're better. We are mutually beneficial. We don't talk about feelings. The token of my loyalty to you is the 400 million idle funds that my family can invest in the future, so please don't let me down. Wayne moved his hand and took me into his arms, laughing softly. Don't talk about feelings? The pity in his tone flashed by, which made me care, but couldn't ask. Yulia, as long as you choose me, I don't need any token of loyalty. But thank you, and I will also give you a gift tomorrow, how about it? Wayne took me back to the small apartment he bought in the city center. Through the window, you can see the billboard of Liu Bo Group and the large French window of the president's office on the top floor. The warm house made the alcohol in my body take effect, making me bold for no reason. I lay down on his bed without hesitation. I'll lie down on the bed of our future wedding room, do you mind? Wayne simply washed up and came out of the bathroom. No, but I sincerely suggest you make a facial mask, otherwise you may regret it tomorrow. After all, you will be the absolute heroine who will outshine everyone tomorrow. On the way home, I kept asking him what he was going to do tomorrow without telling me. But Wayne was very stubborn and refused to say anything, which kept me in suspense. It was already late at night, and Wayne refreshed my perception of his temper. He seemed to be tireless, carefully brought a basin of warm water and facial cleanser to wash me, and told me to treat this place as a beauty salon I often go to. After washing, he applied a mask on me, and then gently pressed his fingers on my temple. My phone vibrated a few times. It was a message from Seth that seemed to comfort me. Today, Chloe was drunk and talking nonsense. Don't take it too seriously. In his heart, the heir of the Liu family, if he is willing to bow his head and say a soft word, everyone will forgive him. I deleted his nonsense irritably and simply turned off my phone. In the past 20 years, my life was first filled with busy subjects, and then tied with the shackles of marriage. At least in the 3 years that I was tied to Seth, I didn't do myself for a second. I was always alert to my so-called fiancé putting me at the center of the scandal. This world is so unfair to women. My other half cheated, and the media always put my name on the headlines first, and then turned me into a joke after dinner. And the appearance of Wayne made me feel sympathy for the first time, and also made me feel relaxed for a long time. His hand was still in my hair. I squinted awkwardly to peek at him, but my heartbeat quickened when I saw his enlarged face. He was so close that I could see his eyelashes and nose. His warm breath gently sprayed on my forehead, which was extremely ambiguous. If he was in a beauty salon, he would definitely not be a serious technician. Wayne. What I actually wanted to say was, if it was you and I who were arranged to get married, it would be so great. I would really like you. But I still didn't say it. He was in the Liu family, and his situation was not as good as mine in the Yin family. How could he have a say? I didn't want to poke his sore spot, so I blushed and said only one sentence. You are so beautiful. When we go to get the marriage certificate, can you not be prettier than me? When I woke up, I was still covered with a blanket, which was thin and had his unique mint smell. I watched the clock on the wall turn every minute and every second, and my anxiety became more and more serious. Changing the groom temporarily. It was such a crazy idea. How could Wayne be willing to cooperate with me? Will things go smoothly? Will the Liu family agree? But he seemed to be unconcerned as he unpacked a silk scarf from the cabinet, tied it around my neck, and then took my hand and went out. He sent me to the wedding site and left to negotiate with the Liu family. I felt uneasy, but I still put on the wedding dress step by step. I don't know how long it took, but Seth appeared outside the dressing room in a decent manner. The first time he saw me in a wedding dress, his brows, which were already a little guilty, became more stunning. Maybe it was Liu's mother who warned him and let him know that he should respect me more. He stood behind me and said in a calm voice, Yulia, I drank too much yesterday. But after all, we will get married in the future, and I will give you basic face. There was a guilty feeling in his voice, and I didn't need to guess that he and Chloe had been hanging out all night. Face, and face again. It seems that as long as the wealthy families can maintain their face, they can ignore the fact that there is a fishy smell under the thin fig leaf. Oh, Seth, no need, you may not believe it, but I really don't want it. He frowned, probably because of the remaining guilt in his heart, and rarely continued to suppress me. He wanted to get close to me, but I ordered the makeup artist to drive him out of the door. He once again showed that kind of hurt affection, and hesitantly said before leaving. Yulia, whether you believe it or not, she and I didn't take the last step last night. Kissing, hugging, not the last step. He said it naturally, as if he had kept the bottom line of a perfect man as long as he didn't take the last step. Ridiculous. He may not have seen the news yet. Someone with ulterior motives copied the surveillance of the bar, and the shadows of him and Chloe sticking together in the cracks of the door several times have begun to provoke the sensitive nerves of the paparazzi. The paparazzi knew, and most people in the circle knew, so Chloe's husband would naturally not let her go easily. So I can almost foresee that she will choose to turn back and bet everything she has to get Seth back, at any cost. My phone vibrated wildly. As expected. The wedding dress you were wearing was chosen by Seth for me back then, did you know that? Chloe's protesting text messages were sent to my phone without hesitation, and I suddenly seemed to understand what kind of surprise Wayne gave me. I couldn't help but raise the corners of my lips. Seth. Future and first love, what would you choose? When the ceremony music sounded and the guests took their seats, I was ready to walk to the center of the banquet hall in my trailing wedding dress. Then the promised accident came as expected, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Even if the wedding was destined to be suspended, I didn't want to say the vow of lifelong companionship to Seth. It was a bit unlucky. Chloe, who was also wearing a wedding dress, rushed into the center of the crowd and shouted to Seth on the stage. "Seth, I missed you once because of cowardice, and I don't want to miss you a second time." She was right. This wedding dress fits her better. It was tailor-made for her. But the tight gauze dress was worn on her, and a slight bulge could be seen in her lower abdomen. She raised her belly as if to protest, "Our child is already 13 weeks old. Even if you Lou family don't want me, do you not want the child?" I was stunned. I didn't expect Chloe to be pregnant. In the past 3 years, I didn't expect Seth to love me, let alone that he would keep himself clean, but I didn't expect that he couldn't even respect a marriage partner in the most basic way. It's ridiculous. The bottom line of a wealthy marriage is not loyalty, but just not to have illegitimate children. He couldn't even meet such a low requirement. I stopped leaning forward, walked in front of Seth, and slapped him with all my strength. "Seth, I'll only slap you once, I'm letting you down. Chloe is still Mr. Lin's wife." If this news came out after Seth and I got married, not to mention the Lou family, which was already on the decline, even our family would be hit hard by public opinion. How dare he do that? The bridesmaids behind me were all young rich daughters who had contacts with my family. They were straightforward and blurted out. "The belly of a 13-week-old baby is so big, it's probably a big pillow. There are so many women who want to get close to the rich and powerful now, and they can do any tricks. Don't be too sad, sister." The little girl didn't avoid the Lou family at all when she spoke, and Seth's expression became more and more ugly. His first love, who he had kept in his heart for many years, was described by others as a gold digger who did whatever it took, and he couldn't offend the person who said that. You can imagine how he felt. "Yulia, I will give you an explanation." I didn't. "You didn't have anything? Do you dare to say that you didn't sleep with her? Do you have to publish all the bed photos in the media before you admit it? But she shouldn't be pregnant." This time she was really willful. Seth had only said half of his words when Chloe in the audience threw a whole stack of test reports into the air, and then everyone exclaimed. So what if she had a pillow in her skirt? So what if she was exaggerating? She was indeed 13 weeks pregnant, and the news that she and Seth were having an affair had been spread all over the place by paparazzi. Seth's face was completely pale, and he couldn't say a word. 13 weeks, that's when Seth and I just announced that we were going to have a wedding. Seth couldn't let go of his first love, and Chloe couldn't forget the feeling of being held in his hands. They couldn't wait to reunite and roll together. The guests were in an uproar, and the whispers were getting louder and louder. Seth's mother was so angry that she almost couldn't stand up. She picked up the water cup at hand and threw it in Chloe's direction. Perhaps this reminded Seth that Chloe had been angry with her mother for him, so he subconsciously rushed off the stage and protected her in his arms. Once again, in front of everyone, I trampled my face into the ground. "Seth, do you know what you are doing?" The screaming voice of Lou's mother called back a trace of reason in Seth, and he loosened his hand holding Chloe a little bit after realizing it. Unfortunately, it was too late. From the moment Chloe appeared in her wedding dress, the media had exploded. The paparazzi who had been waiting outside the door for a long time were like hyenas, with long guns and short guns ready to make big news at any time. Seth's position in Lou Beau Group was already unstable. He relied on the support of his parents and the help of our Eames family to maintain his position as the heir. After Chloe's commotion today, let alone being promoted to general manager, he may not be able to continue to work as the deputy general manager. I saw my mother, who always made me tolerate everything, holding Lou's mother's sleeve tightly in the audience, and her face, which had always been well maintained, had turned red. She might have remembered the dirty things that were made public at her wedding because her husband had an affair with the waiter on the yacht, so her whole body was shaking. That was a joke that would be passed on by word of mouth in the circle of ladies even if the media was silenced. Looking at each other from a distance, she looked at me on the stage, and 2 lines of tears slid down her eyes. Judging from her lip shape, she seemed to call my nickname, with a heartbroken look. I don't know if this time was for me, or the so-called face. I pinched myself hard, forcing myself to cry, and then collapsed in front of everyone, and then fell into a warm embrace. I was an absolute victim, fainted at the scene and was sent to the hospital in the west of the city. Even though the Liu family had tried their best to block the news, a few blurry photos and long audio clips still flew out of the door with the rumors. So the whole city knew it after all. When everyone was speculating whether our 2 families would turn against each other, I sat on the hospital bed and announced to the camera of the reporter, "Thank you for your attention and concern for us. As the daughter of my parents, I have received the grace of my parents for many years of raising me. I will not hurt their good intentions, because of my momentary grievances. I believe that Uncle and Aunt Liu will give us a proper explanation. The business of the Yin family and the Liu family has been going on for many years. Even if there are some changes in status, the business cannot be distinguished by who is strong and who is weak in a short time. Everyone understands that if the 2 families are to be separated, both sides will lose a layer of flesh. As the eldest daughter of the Yin family and the victim of this marriage, I showed a tired smile in front of the camera and insisted on sharing the family's worries. Whoever saw this would be moved to tears. My parents came to the hospital to see me several times. How could I hide these little tricks from them, but they said nothing. With my help, the popularity of the Yin family reached its peak, and most of the comments were positive comments that were beneficial to the stock price. The vested interests will not speak out. This is the lesson I have learned from my brother over the years. On a sunny afternoon, my mother tidied my messy hair and stuffed the household registration book into my hands. There was still hesitation in her eyes, and she said earnestly, "Yulia, Mom has thought it through. There is really nothing good about the life of a rich family. If you are not happy, even if you don't want to get married." I interrupted her halfway through her words. "No need, Mom. The Liu family has no daughters. You can't let your precious son sell his ass." When I said it, I was shocked myself. I thought there would be no waves in my heart, but I couldn't help but blame her in my tone. She was stunned for a moment, and then met my calm eyes. "For the status of my brother in the family, no matter what, you will sacrifice me, right?" She avoided my eyes, and finally said nothing and left the ward. The door opened, and she met the right person to explain. Wayne came to see me with flowers, nodded to my mother, and the sun shone on him, exuding an especially warm breath. He looked a little tired, and his hair was not deliberately taken care of. He put the flowers on the bedside, and then began to peel apples for me. "Thank you, Wayne, but I really don't like apples." "You saw that my mother brought the apples in, right? But she doesn't know that I can't eat apples at all." "Sorry, Yulia." "It's okay, you are the last person who needs to apologize to me." Silence spread, and I looked at his tired face. "Are you tired today?" His shoulders paused, and then he said awkwardly, "It's okay. I thought you said that I must not look better than you on the day of getting the marriage certificate, so I deliberately didn't sleep last night." He put his household registration book on the bedside, and then took out a ring. "Yulia, even if it's just a cooperation, I think you deserve a formal proposal." "Yulia, thank you for choosing me when I had nothing. So if I'm lucky enough to have an overlap with your life, it will be my lifelong honor." He was very humble and kissed my hand, but didn't force me to put on the ring. He already had a plain ring on his left hand, as if to say that he was willing to be tied to me. A piece of paper that I thought was a prenuptial agreement was spread out, which said that Wayne voluntarily gave Ms. Yulia 10% of Liu's shares before marriage. "I don't have enough now, but I can give you everything." If Wayne's words were heard by Liu's mother, she would probably be furious. 10% of a listed company's shares is a terrifying amount for individual shareholders. Mother Liu has been fighting for it for more than 20 years, but she only has 3%. My tears flowed uncontrollably. I have been pretending not to fight for too long, so when someone takes the initiative to hold their heart in front of me, I can't pretend not to be moved. I do. My fingertips are still trembling, and I put the diamond ring on my left ring finger. The size is just right. It's great, this is specially designed for me. I finally don't have to give it to others. Yulia, what are you doing? The door of the ward was opened again, and Seth stood at the door, holding an apple in his hand, his face as white as paper. And Wayne didn't even turn his head, just looked at me with a satisfied smile after putting on the diamond ring. It suits you very well. This is made just for you. No one will wear the same thing to show off in front of you. Wayne didn't even turn his head, but his words were full of irony. Wayne's trembling voice came again. No. I can explain Chloe's wedding dress. She contacted the designer with my phone without permission. I didn't let her. His explanation was too pale. Fortunately, I don't have to care about it now. Since the farce of the wedding, Seth has been locked up by Lou's father. He really got into trouble this time. The scandal at the wedding caught the entire Lou family off guard. If Wayne hadn't done public relations in time to silence a group of reporters, the impact would have been much greater than it is now. He was temporarily suspended and demoted, and Wayne, as a hero, directly took his place. Wayne's performance and ability are obvious to all, and this time he reached the top, which is what everyone wants. Even if Lou's mother tried her best to stop him, she could do nothing. I heard that Mother Lou collapsed and yelled at Father Lou, "He is just an illegitimate child, why don't you help your own son, but help an illegitimate child?" Then Father Lou's response was extremely cold, "Shut up, compared to Wayne, Seth is the illegitimate child in my heart. If your eyes were not like Wayne's mother, do you think you could marry into the Lou family? How did Wayne's mother die? You can hide it from me for a while, but you can't hide it from me forever. For so many years, I have been really good to you and your son." Mother Lou fell to the ground dejectedly. Who won and who lost, the dust settled. Mother Lou also came to the hospital several times a few days ago, but I fainted in front of her, and the media added fuel to the fire. I don't know if Seth came to see me this time secretly, or if Mother Lou has run out of tricks and wants her son to have a last try. But Seth, it's not that I didn't give you a chance. I gave it to you, and I gave it for 3 years. If you don't cherish it yourself, who can you blame? Wayne and I got the marriage certificate openly. In the wedding photos, I smiled without burden for the first time in a long time. The formal wedding is scheduled for the beginning of next spring. With the popularity of the wedding, the Lou family can sell products for the new year. In order to prepare for the wedding, Wayne was busy at work every day, and he had to choose various props and gift boxes for the wedding when he got home. And I did my best to monitor the publicity department's publicity for the opening, fearing that there would be any mistakes in any link. After all, there is an investment of 400 million yuan from the Yin family. I want to maximize the benefits of this resource. As long as the stock price rises with sales, I can be the happiest woman. Every time we talked about the details of the wedding, he talked about his, I talked about mine, and in the end I got a look of resentment from him. Do you like the one prepared by Seth more than the one I prepared? Shut up, Wayne, what are you thinking about? In the end, we looked at the gift list all night and went to bed with panda eyes the next day. Time flies by quickly, the wedding date is getting closer, but I feel less and less real. I feel happy, but also panicky. I think I like Wayne more and more. The more I like him, the more scared I am, the more scared I am, the more I want to escape. I escaped to the psychologist's office, but she still told me that I can try to accept the kindness of others and try to enjoy the process of happiness. You have to accept that the establishment and collapse of relationships are natural, your happiness is not wrong, and your sadness is even more wrong. When I had a younger brother in my childhood, my parents seemed to take back all their love overnight. The most memorable thing was that I woke up my younger brother because I ate an apple, and I was whipped. It hurt so much that I cried loudly, but my mother slapped me. Don't cry, you woke him up. Since then, I am too afraid of love being taken back by a cliff. I carefully hide my love, for fear that I will fall into a false and beautiful fantasy, and then wake up to find myself thrown on the wire between the cliffs. But it's amazing, when I'm with Wayne, our relationship doesn't seem to require me to walk on thin ice to maintain it, and by the time I realize it, a smile has already spread all over my face. I put more experience into the little things in daily life, instead of constantly imagining whether our marriage relationship will fall apart at some point in the future. The company responsible for the wedding photography sent me the finished photos tonight. After thinking about it, I picked a few pictures and posted them on Facebook, just to force myself to take the first step. I clicked send and put my phone on my chest. My heart was beating like a drum. Then Wayne followed and posted on Facebook. All 9 pictures were of me. I thought that Seth, the crazy man, might find me through the internet. But I didn't expect that Chloe would block my door before him. After Wayne and I got the marriage certificate, I moved directly into his small home in the city center, and few people knew about it. But the day after I posted on Facebook, Chloe stood at our door all day through some connections. It was already 8:30 p.m. when I got off work, and she blocked me outside the door with my crazy Thursday fried chicken. She, who used to be so proud in front of me, knelt on the ground and begged me to let her go, saying that as long as I was still angry, Seth would not let her go. You obviously like Seth, and now he loves you like crazy, so why do you force yourself to marry someone you don't love? Seth said that as long as you come back, he will let me and my children stay in the UK for life, so please come back, just treat it as a great mercy to save my life. I watched her talking to herself, and suddenly I got angry. Why did she say that I don't love Wayne? My eyes became a little pity, looking down at her. A little girl with no background, trying her best to squeeze into this circle. It's a pity that she has squeezed into the circle of rich families for so many years, but she still hasn't seen through it. How many times have I been angry in the past few years, but has Seth ever really stood by me? He just vented his current unhappiness on Chloe, who has nothing, and why should I, Yulia, take over a man who betrayed me? I smiled mockingly and said to Chloe, I am different from you. I am not interested in men who have betrayed me, but you don't have to rely on him. I, Yulia, can send you to England, and as long as I want, you will never come back to England. Are you willing? Chloe was choked by my words and couldn't say a word. Why don't you want to? Are you afraid that you will never come back to England? Chloe's body has begun to become clumsy, and her back is shaky when she leaves. It's just running away. On the wedding day, I wore the only diamond ring in the world and a unique wedding dress. I specifically told the designer that the skirt must have a hidden pocket design so that I can work on my phone at any time before going on stage. So a good show appeared. The groom was full of joy and ready to kiss the bride, with tears flowing down his cheeks. On the other hand, the bride, who had just received the news that the company's products were selling well, was so happy that she bared her teeth and laughed so hard that the groom couldn't eat. When the pastor asked for the second time, "Do you agree?" "Oh, I agree, I agree." The groom was so upset that he directly blocked the faces of the two with flowers, and then bit the bride's lower lip hard. The wedding was held at the seaside, not in the indoor banquet hall. After the simple ceremony, the guests went to the private beach. The private beach was surrounded by 3 layers of bodyguards inside and outside, and there would never be any strangers suddenly appearing. The Dillon chief of Dillon Construction Company was also invited to appear at the scene and talked to us briefly. He already had a girl who looked more like his ex-wife by his side, blinking her big watery eyes and holding his hand obediently. She looked harmless, but secretly spent a lot of money to make Chloe live in dire straits in the UK, and she almost ended up in the slums with a big belly. After all, there was suspicion about the time when Chloe got pregnant. She was afraid that the child was Dillon Chief's, so she did whatever it took to torture her. Seth, who had promised Chloe that he would let her live a life of luxury in the UK, turned a blind eye to this. He was not stupid enough to offend the woman who might become Dillon Chief's next wife for a mistress. Seth appeared in front of us with a glass of wine, staring at my swollen lips with a complicated expression. I drank the wine generously, and then saw that he finally looked like a deflated ball. His whole spirit collapsed, and then he smiled self-deprecatingly. "Yulia, You should call me sister-in-law. Wayne's tough interruption made Seth almost unable to maintain the mask of smile. If Chloe hadn't disrupted our ceremony last time, would we have been together a long time ago? His eyes had begun to turn red, which really gave me the illusion that he loved me deeply. Is it important? You are so sad now, just because you, who was extremely confident, suddenly lost both me and Chloe. Why pretend to be affectionate here? But I really didn't. I really made up my mind to be with you after marrying you. I sneered. Being with me means secretly raising your mistress in the UK or somewhere else I can't see, and then living in peace with us? He took a deep breath, and then said very sincerely. Whether you believe it or not, I only touched her once because I was drunk, and I took measures. The child in her belly is not mine. Oh. When Seth left in a daze, Wayne put his arm around my shoulders and whispered in my ear, saying sourly, "You know, what he said is impossible to happen. I found Chloe, and I sent the video of them to the media. As long as I am here, he can't complete the wedding. The Liu family has always paid attention to security. Without my intervention, Chloe, how could he have managed to get in successfully? I messed up your wedding with Seth, you won't be angry, will you?" I clinked glasses with him, then pinched his face to comfort him. "I'm not angry. After all, it was me who pierced several holes in Seth's condom when he met Chloe. I was right, we are a perfect match. Wayne, I have been planning this for you for a long time."